see that history. I don't want to watch history yet. We're gonna be watching his story. And he's going viral, so let's go, I guess. Watch this story. He's very viral. I don't know. I think he beat Zaki Films, so let's go. Let's go to YouTube and search up his story. I saw their story for something. But yeah, let's go to their story, I guess. Okay, their story just sounds crazy, but let's go to his channel and what? Okay.
I'd been wheeling myself down the boardwalk when my arms started aching, so I grabbed...
Of course, your arms can start aching. What would you think will happen? Yeah,
the nearest stranger and asked, "Can you wheel me to see my son? It's my first time seeing him in years, and I'm already late." But as
you're already late.
soon as he grabbed my handlebars, he jolted me towards the other direction. I laughed nervously. The pier is the other way, but he started speeding up. "Don't worry about it, rich man." That's when a white van pulled up to the end of the boardwalk with the door wide open, and the driver was wearing a ski mask. My entire body tensed because I knew he was planning on taking me. I instantly looked around for another stranger, but the sun was setting and everyone had left. I slid my phone between my legs to try and call my son and saw he'd texted me. "You've been letting me down since I was 9. You promised you would show up for me and that you were sober this time. We're never going to have a relationship together." My heart ached because he thought I was letting him down when really I was being kidnapped. I instantly called him and it went to voicemail, but before I could say anything, the guy snatched it. He read the text and laughed. "Damn, nobody's coming for you." But he didn't know the voicemail was still running in his fist, so I begged loud so that the recording would hear every landmark I had. "Please, why are you taking me to the marina lot? What's in that white van?" He didn't respond and stuffed the phone in his jacket, tipped my chair, and dumped me onto the van floor. The doors slammed, and I had no idea if I was going to live. From the back of the van, I watched as we drove into a dark alley. The van slammed to a stop, and there were pairs of shoes hanging from the power lines, and I was extremely scared. He tore the doors open and began raiding my back pockets, but that's when we heard sirens everywhere. Cops surrounded the area, and the two men were forced to raise their hands in the air. My son pushed through them and grabbed my face with both hands. "I played your voicemail so I could hate you one more time, but I could hear you crying and you were scared, and a strange man said nobody was coming for you." He wiped his eyes. He was wrong. When they set me back in my chair, I still couldn't talk. So my son took the handles and wheeled me into his car to drive to the boardwalk. I never even had to ask. I'd been wheeling myself down the boardwalk. I was 30 years old and would still check under my bed every night before going to sleep.
Are you a kid? Are you a 9-year-old?
My 6-year-old son would ask why, and I'd lie that I was just checking for monsters, when in reality, I was afraid the man who kidnapped me might come back. I was 7 when I woke up to him climbing out from under my bed. I still remember him covering my mouth with duct tape and his hands as he carried me to his van. I lived in his basement for 3 years before I escaped, but even at 30 years old, I couldn't sleep without checking. But then one night, I woke up to a creak under my bed. My heart raced as I instantly grabbed my flashlight, my hands trembling. I slowly peered under, but all that was there was my giant box of clothes. I crawled back in bed, but next morning I was so shaken, my son even asked if I was okay. I again told him it's just the monsters, but my coffee nearly spilled, and he came over and hugged me. "It's okay, Dad. If there's ever a monster, I'll protect you." But that night, I woke up to the feeling of my mattress sinking. My chest became cold, and when I turned around, I saw fingers crawling out from under my bed, getting closer. Every memory of my kidnapper came back to me. I screamed and grabbed the nearby lamp, hitting the fingers as hard as I could. I was so scared I barely heard.
Just slam that thing in his back. In his arm. Finger.
The scream under my bed, but then my son crawled out from under there. He was holding his hand against his chest, and my brain short-circuited. What are you doing? I yelled, and he looked up at me. You said you were scared of monsters, Daddy, so every night after you fell asleep I'd hide behind the box under your bed. If a monster ever came, I was gonna fight it for you. My heart fully melted, and I realized I couldn't be mad at him because his intentions were so pure. Thank you, son. I gently took his hand, and next night we checked for the monsters together. I was 30 years old and would still check under my bed every night before going to sleep. My 6-year-old son would ask why, and I'd lie. The intercom crackled. His stories is to be searched by military personnel immediately. He is an immediate threat to students. Remain seated until he's secured. My pen froze over my history notes, and the kid behind me slapped my shoulder laughing. Bro, what did you do? I put my hands up because I had no idea what was going on. Every kid rushed to the windows, and when I leaned over, I saw 2 armored trucks rolling across the courtyard grass. 6 soldiers filed through our door and lined the walls. His stories. On your feet. Now. I stood up so fast my chair tipped over. Sir, there's a mistake. I didn't do anything. 2 of them patted me down while my whole class filmed it. Check my bag. Check my locker. You'll see the only rule I break is using ChatGPT to help with homework, I swear. But one soldier lifted my pen off my desk, dropped it into a metal container, and nodded at the others. We found the weapon. My voice cracked. That's a pen. But no one wanted to listen to me. They cuffed my hands behind my back and marched me out, and the entire school poured into the hallway behind us. My legs were trembling because I had no idea if I was going to go to jail for a misunderstanding. But when the doors swung open, a man in dress uniform was at the bottom of the steps, holding his cap against his chest. A soldier unlocked my cuffs, and I collapsed into his arms. Dad, you're home! He stroked my head. My deployment ended early, son. 5 years, and you wrote to me every single week. I wanted to give you a homecoming you'd never forget. He took my pen out of the container and pressed it into my hand. Heard you're armed and dangerous with this thing every week. The intercom crackled. His stories is to be searched by military personnel immediately. He is an immediate threat to students. Remain seated until he's secured. My pen froze over my history notes, and the kid behind me.
That is just crazy, guys. I'm literally shocked. I didn't know his stories was there.
Put this in the microwave. Something cool will happen. My big brother handed me a
Nah, your big brother is evil.
fork and grinned. I was only 7, so my eyes lit up as I shoved the metal utensil in the microwave and immediately hit 2 minutes. Ronnie propped his phone against the toaster. I want to record how cool my brother is. I didn't realize he was only recording me to humiliate me, and smiled because my big brother had just called me cool for the first time. Whoa, it's actually doing it. I leaned closer as a blue spark popped off the fork, and when the timer beeped 1 minute, Ronnie glanced over at his phone. Now put your head next to the microwave to get a better look. I pressed my nose against the door, and my eyes widened as the blue sparks turned to crackling. The fork started bouncing inside the microwave, and I saw smoke now rising from the top. 30 seconds were still left on the timer, and Ronnie leaned closer like he was waiting for something. But suddenly, I saw a spoon on the floor. What happens if we put this in as well? I bent down to pick it up, and Ronnie immediately crossed the room. What are you doing? Look at the microwave, he pointed. I looked up at him from the floor and told him I was just making the microwave cooler, but suddenly I heard a flash. Boom! The microwave exploded with Ronnie inches away from it. A bit of the microwave door came off and cracked him in the face, dropping him to the floor. I looked up from where I'd been protected behind the counter and saw Ronnie on the floor, his face covered in gray ash as his hair stuck upwards like he'd been electrocuted. My hands were shaking as I looked at his phone that had just recorded everything. That was amazing. I picked up another fork. Let's get another microwave and do it again. Put this in the
I guess that's special. For a savage kid.
Only 30 minutes left to get ready.
I lifted my camera to take one photo of the Mona Lisa when 3 security guards slammed me onto the floor in front of the whole crowd. I had no idea why and screamed until a guard pointed to the sign, "No photography." He hauled me up by my arm. "The police will be here any second. This is a criminal offense." But I didn't even take a picture. He didn't listen. I'd spent 2 years saving for this trip, and now I was about to go to jail over something I didn't do. They dragged me into the corner, and a guard got in my face. "That painting is worth more than your entire lineage." Over his shoulder, I saw the police marching toward me. I threw my hands up. "Please, let me show you my camera." I didn't take anything. I grabbed my camera, but some guy shoved past me toward the front, and my finger accidentally hit the shutter, and the camera flashed directly at the Mona Lisa. The whole room gasped. The guard's face went red with anger. "He just did it again! Get him!" He yanked my Canon off my neck as the police tackled me and cuffed my hands behind my back. "You'll rot in prison for damaging our Mona Lisa." But when I looked up, the man who shoved me was circling the painting, flashing it multiple times from every angle. people, but every guard was too busy with me to notice. I had one shot before my life was over, so I screamed, "What about him? Look!" Every guard head turned, and the man's flash brightened the whole painting. He saw the guards and bolted, shoving through the crowd as the guards chased him. But the man was already out the exit. A cop mumbled, "We lost him." But then I remembered the accidental flash I took earlier, and my whole body jolted. "Check my camera! I may have caught him on camera!" The cop grabbed my Canon and turned the screen around. Filling the frame was the man who shoved me, his camera raised at the Mona Lisa. The flash that got me handcuffed was the same one that set me free. The cop uncuffed me, and I finally looked at the painting I'd saved 2 years for. Wasn't even worth a picture. Mid. I lifted my camera to take one photo of the Mona Lisa when 3 security guards slammed me onto the floor in front of the whole crowd. I had no idea why and screamed. A man tried stealing my daughter's teddy bear at the laundromat, so I simply let him. My coworker Grant walked in with his wine-stained blazer and immediately laughed when he saw me counting quarters to wash Mia's teddy. "They don't pay you enough to own a washer, huh?" I said nothing and kept feeding quarters because I couldn't afford a new teddy. But after Grant put his blazer in, he walked over and started tapping the glass where her teddy spun. "You're seriously washing that dirty thing? Why don't you buy the kid a real toy?" Mia immediately stood up to him. "That is a real toy. My daddy got it for me." I felt proud of her. Until Grant smirked. "It's not a real toy, little girl. My kids have laser swords and arcade machines. Those are real toys." Mia suddenly went quiet, and Grant knelt down to her. "It's okay. Your daddy just doesn't love you enough to work hard and buy you nice things." My fists instantly curled as Mia backed away and teared up. But I wasn't going to swing in front of her, so I simply stepped between them. "Be quiet, Grant. For your own sake." He laughed in my face. "Or what?" That's when the machine behind us beeped. I opened the door to take Mia's teddy, but Grant shoved me out of the way and snatched it. He held it over Mia's head. She reached and screamed, "No," as tears ran down her cheeks, but he just laughed. That's when I snapped. I physically picked Grant and stuffed him into an open washing machine with Mia's teddy still in his hands. I shut the door and put in my last 2 quarters. He screamed, "I'm sorry, please," but I just calmly pressed spin. Mia laughed and tugged my sleeve. That was so funny. But what about my teddy, Daddy? I shrugged. It needed another wash anyway. Then I pointed at the floor where Grant's wallet had fallen when I lifted him. I took out 2 20s and pressed them into Mia's hand. "Come on, let's go buy a new teddy and some pancakes." We walked out while Grant banged on the glass. A man tried stealing my daughter's teddy bear.
My healthiest looking, smoothest skin revealed.
My alarm buzzed at 7 a.m., and when I picked up my phone, my heart sank because it said October 23rd for the 4th morning in a row. I was stuck living October 23rd over and over, and I had no idea why. When I got to school and sat down to eat breakfast, I spotted a kid named Elliot sitting alone at the end of the table. I nudged the girl next to me. "Do you know that kid?" She shrugged. "No idea." Something about him stuck with me because I'd sat in that exact seat myself before I made friends, and I remembered exactly how alone I'd felt. When the bell rang, I watched 2 seniors follow him toward the gym doors, and something in my gut told me they had something to do with why this day kept resetting. By loop 7, I stopped walking straight to homeroom and followed them instead, staying far enough back to watch without being seen. One senior grabbed Elliot's backpack and dumped it upside down onto the floor. Whoops! Elliot dropped to his knees to grab his papers, and nobody slowed down to help. My throat went tight, remembering what that felt like. On loop 9, I got there just as one senior shoved Elliot toward the stairwell at the end of the gym hall. "Watch your step," the senior laughed, shoving him again, right as Elliot's foot missed the top step. "Stop!" I screamed, but I was too far away to do anything. I saw him fall, then woke up in my bed at 7 a.m., heart pounding, before I ever heard him hit the bottom. That's when I realized this time loop wouldn't end until I actually saved Elliot's life myself. That day, I skipped breakfast and ran straight to the gym doors, planting myself between Elliot and the stairwell before either senior could get close. "Leave him alone," one of them smirked. "Or what?" I grabbed Elliot's arm and pulled him back a full step from the stairs. I was trying to think of my next move when a teacher rounded the corner and both seniors took off. Elliot stared at me, still shaking. "Why'd you do that?" "Because nobody should feel alone." The next morning when my alarm went off, it finally said October 24th. Elliot waved at me when I got to school, then walked over and sat down next to me instead of alone. My alarm buzzed at 7 a.m., and when I picked up my phone, my heart sank because it said October 23rd for the 4th morning in a row. I was stuck living October 23rd over and over, and I had no idea why. When my idiot friend started peeing himself outside English class. Dude, I'm so nervous for this presentation.
I mean, hey, don't act like y'all have peed yourself in bed. No, I see you, little. Yeah, I've peed myself. Definitely a few times when I was just a kid. And I'm still a kid, but like more, like 4 years old. Like so that makes sense. 1-year-olds.
For 10 years straight, an old man would come into the diner every day at 8 a.m. sharp, sit in the corner, and order gumbo with no cracker. All of us would gossip. Why doesn't he talk to anyone? Do you think he's hiding something? But none of us were ready for the truth. And one day, at 8:15 a.m., when he still hadn't shown up, I was extremely worried. By noon, he'd missed his first bowl in 10 years, and I knew I had to do something. I untied my apron mid-shift and jogged the 4 blocks to his building. When I got to the front door, I knocked. "Earl, it's Ray from the diner. I'm just checking in." There was no response, so I pressed my ear to the door. Inside, I could hear a weak voice repeating, "Help," over and over. My heart was pounding, so I pressed my face to the window, and through a gap in the curtain, I saw a dark blood stain soaked into the carpet. I instantly started slamming myself into the door frame. "I'm coming in, Earl!" And when the door finally split open, Earl was on the floor between the couch and the coffee table, lips gray, one arm bent wrong beneath him. "Fell last night," he whispered. "Knew you'd come." I called 911 kneeling on that carpet and held his hand until the sirens arrived. At the hospital, a paramedic pulled me aside. If he spent another night on that floor, he'd be gone. You finding him is what saved him. A nurse stopped me at the desk with a clipboard. "Who should we call?" "Family. Emergency contact." I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. I realized I'd spent 10 years gossiping about what Earl was hiding, but the truth is, he was never hiding anything. He was just alone, and his gumbo routine was the only thing that saved him. No, it's just me. From there, every evening I brought him gumbo with no cracker, and before they discharged him, the regulars passed a jar down the counter and rented him the apartment right beside the diner so we'd know if anything happened to him again. On his first morning home, Earl eased "Gumbo, hold the cracker." For
Ew! That's disgusting! Did he just go in? Oh, no, that's just disgusting. Guys, that is the end for the video because it's getting a bit dark now. But stay tuned for another video, I guess.